Luke stuff, making fun of myself. So it's fine. We are live right now, by the way, just so everybody knows. All right, let me get all the links put out. I do think I sound better than I did during the Scott episode, which is great. That was rough. I've never been hit with con crud before, but oh my god, it destroyed me.
Yeah, but I've also never had anything like that before. I never get sick at conventions somehow.
Normally I
I
don't.
went to an event like 2 Memorial Days ago for Legion, and I brought COVID home, so it was the worst con crud.
That sounds terrible.
It put me on my ass for the better part of a week.
I had COVID after the last LVO. It really only hit me for like a day, but it was like midnight. I was like, I'm fine. I'm like unpacking. And then I woke up at like 4 a.m. and with cold sweats, and it was just like murder for about 24 hours.
Sounds rough.
Which honestly is better than the con crud that goes on for a few days.
But I was out. Basically, yesterday was the first day I felt like good. So I was basically out all week.
So, Accuser, do we basically want to kind of just like rotate asking the boys questions?
Yeah. How much of a script do you have for yours? Because I'm coming in. Okay, no script. Good. I can fit right in.
There's
Who do you think we are?
I got to remember where I am. Yeah.
Honestly, I think a lot of the time I do better interviewing without a script, because then I'm not like trying to go back to the script or relying entirely on like the script order. And if I bounce ahead and then miss something, stuff like that. So, Matt had typed up a short little like list of key points, which I do want to hit on all of those. But
was that in the chat and I missed it, or?
I'll go grab it again.
Yeah, we don't need to go too crazy on like numbers on stuff. Obviously I think we want to mention the goofy lack of Kanan that everyone was kind of caught off guard with, but we went through with the Scott episode and really went through like the top 8 and stuff. So I don't know how much we want to dig through numbers.
Don't worry. You just get to answer questions. You don't have to worry about it.
And that
you do
barrel,
not need prepared work here.
Yeah. The barrel and the viewers, I haven't seen that name in watching us in a while.
The barrel and the viewers?
Yeah, barrel. Yeah, I wonder who that is. That's me. I wonder who that is. Ha! Ha! Okay.
Oh, I got a little crown. I'm prime gaming, baby.
So you got crown now? You literally went through 3 different types of beers and now you have crown.
No, my little guy's name has a crown on it.
Oh.
So, Accuser, what we'll do is so I posted like the few things that we wanted to make sure that we hit, because these were what Matt typed out. But I think we just kind of add in any interesting questions that we want, and we may have sub questions. So I think we bounce it back and forth. Like if we ask something like, "Oh, hey, Accuser, did you have any sub questions off of this?" That sort of thing. So we don't like move past something where if they answer a question about their audibles or whatever, and then that inspires another question, we don't move past it.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. Let me just push up my sinuses a little bit,
We got to loosen everything up.
Yeah. Okay. I guess real quick question for Accuser and Matt.
Yeah.
Opinion on the shirts. How'd they feel throughout the whole weekend?
Oh, they were good. Yeah.
Yeah, I like them a lot.
Yeah, I like the material. I don't know what one you picked, but it was like nice.
It's comfortable.
Yeah.
It is a little bit of a premium though. It is a little more expensive than I was wanting for shirts, but still like it.
Yeah, and I got more than a few people like, "Hey, that shirt is awesome." It's like, "Oh, this is from the podcast," and we had a cool comic book artist do it.
Yeah, I need to get Sarah his then if we want to move forward with that one. And then figure out
I
what
think I'm
Omnis wants on the
probably
back
about
of it.
ready to order a shirt. I think I just wanted to say like Omnis, and then in quotations, this is the way.
Okay.
That's what
I'll
I
do a
want.
quote if I have to get a second one.
All right.
If you
I don't
have
know.
to, like,
A
it's not a
multi-day event.
delightful privilege.
You know what I mean.
No,
Thought about
I
wearing it.
don't.
All right,
Just
Luke.
because we broed out on the last episode does not mean you're immune to trolling.
Doesn't.
That's fair. I did get trolled at the event, though. One guy was like, "Oh, I listen to your podcast, and I've listened to the past few episodes and know what you're running, so I can beat you when it comes up." Like,
That's the glory of
I'm
it,
not
though.
playing well enough to get paired together. Don't worry about that. Yeah, the 102 was like my hot take tonight. I'm like entirely terrain based.
Ooh.
All
I
right.
definitely want to do 2 weeks at terrain episode.
I think it's actually like important after having played in an event where I didn't do all the tables.
Okay.
I want to know why my video keeps having the light fluctuate, and I don't understand what's causing it, because none of the light is changing in my room.
You're just radiant.
That might be
That's all
the
I
nicest
guess.
thing Dizzard's ever said.
Wow.
Something
was
luminous
delightfully-
beings. You could have at least gone Star Wars with it.
All right. Space Whales. I'm ready if you guys are ready.
Dizzard, we're always ready.
I don't think that's true.
It is not, but we ride.
At dawn. Ugh.
Or
Okay.
8 minutes late, whatever.
It's fine. It's fine. All right, hitting buttons. We've been live. We've been live.
We've been
That's
live.
fine.
Everyone
Yeah.
gets to watch this part.
I went
Yeah, we're
live
just
at.
recording now.
I went live at the right time. All right, we're hitting buttons.
Welcome, my young apprentice. Stretch out with your feelings. I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
Welcome back to another week of Rogue Sport. I guess this is a 2 in a week. I keep messing, All right, anyways, welcome back. We're gonna thank you for listening as always and supporting the show as we move along. Thank you to our Patreon patrons who support the show in that way. And as always, I am lost today. Okay, I'm so sorry. Let's just. All right. This is like we didn't talk enough beforehand. I'm like out of it at the moment. I feel like
wanna
I've
just
been
finish the
so.
top?
Where we pretend our biases do not affect our list decisions.
There you
Boom.
go.
Moving on.
I mean, it does, but I don't even pretend it at this point. I just kind of go with it. No, I've been sick for the past week, and I'm just so full of energy from just laying around for the past week that I don't know where it's just. My brain's just everywhere at the moment. But anyways, yeah. Also, we have joined forces with the Goonhammer Media Network to further promote the game and continue to produce quality content. This is what you come here for. Hot takes, cold drinks. Let's start with Matt. What are you drinking, and what is your take of hotness?
All right, so I am drinking Sam Summer to celebrate the end of our summer here in my nice Eagles koozie because my Birds got to win this week. My hot take is how did the sea chickens do, but no. So my hot take. My hot
Are they still
take
playing?
Is, no, they played earlier. I'm gonna kind of pull a page from the Omnibus book, and I'm gonna do a observation into a hot take because you last week almost did the 2 hot takes.
They won. They beat the. Sorry, I got. Go ahead.
So I went back and went through our little comments we made about how to prep for a GT and realized I did almost none of them. So do as I say, not as I do, or do as we say, not as we do sometimes. My hot take, though, after playing basically a bunch of primaries I had very little testing time with and not a lot of experience, I know it's been said on other podcasts. I've said on other podcasts about how Vader 2, I think, is like the thinking man's Vader, and there's a cap in there. There's not. He just does the same thing with a better kit. Like, I got so few games with Vader in and was just like, yeah, every time I drew him, I'm like, cool, Vader's gonna just Vader. Like, the play line was so linear. It's just like, hey, I'm Vader. I'm gonna go kill things. Okay, Vader. Like, I don't know. The Vaders are not thought intensive. At this point, I'm just like, yeah, I thought that looking at the card originally. I'm like, no, he just does a lot of cool things. Like, he's not a challenging model to play with. So, sorry, Kevin Caldwell as well out there when he hears this and cries.
Yeah, he's not a thinking model, but compared to the first one, I mean, the first one set the bar so low for linear thought. Like, yeah, thinking comparatively.
Yeah, I agree. That's probably where the idea came from. But after looking at it and like especially looking at some of the new stuff and like what we've gotten even since then, I'm like, no, it's easy. It's point and click.
Yeah.
So that's
you draw Vader and one shot something.
That's my lukewarm pick.
Wow.
Nice.
So many Luke references today.
Phil, you're up.
Tough act to follow. I'm also doing Sam Adams, but I've got Jacko, so pumpkin ale. I've shifted from summer to fall drinks. Hot take. Tables, particularly at tournaments, definitely pay attention to them coming out of the GT in Orlando. Definitely check like ingress points. Like if someone that's setting up the tables doesn't understand SHatterpoint, sets them up, check their work and make sure there's ladders. I think the one table that I played on, I went 0-2 on it. It had 5 ladders total, and 4 of them were like at the deployment line. So it was a rough table, and ingress points matter. So I check your tables at events, but I hope we do a table episode on terrain because I think it's more important than we give it credit for.
I mean, I set up a table with 2 ladders at Nova. Are you saying I got a problem?
Were they at least out of the deployment line? Were they somewhere relevant?
It was designed, and they talk about it. I know Kevin Caldwell played a game on it, but it's the giant like plus sign for the forest moon. So like the entire middle, like 40% of the table is just this giant raised elevated platform. So like, yep, 1 ladder up each side. That's it.
That's
Thunderdome.
fine. Yeah. Okay.
Accuser, I agree with you. Even though, like, if you remember back to the early Rogue support days, I was talking about like playing on a table that I set up and then playing on a table that someone else set up that felt like it had a gajillion ladders and they were always an optimal point. And it really created this differential for me at first. But slowly over time, I have just been adding more ladders to my stuff. And even now, Matt actually, I believe, just sent me some of the rails since all my rails were attached. And I'm going to do some of the ladders that are attached to the rails so that I can put some on the gantries. Because I found what I'm noticing is on my particular table, because all of my ladders are glued down, I wasn't putting any next to the gantries, and it was making blocking landing zones of the ladders a much more significant part of the game than I think was intended. Where when they're always on the terrain and not on the gantries, it just became too like, oh, I'll put this one model here, and then that blocks like all the landing zones for the ladders and stuff like that. So yeah, man, the placement of ladders, that's going to be a judge challenge.
Huge,
for sure.
yeah. And in contrast, the table next to me had like a high ground tower like in one corner, and the high ground has 2 different ladders built into it, and then it had 2 long ladders on either sides of it up to the top platform.
Okay, that's too much.
That's too much. You can go too far with the ladders too.
One thing I kind of want to pile onto this a little bit. So one of the things I was thinking about doing as somebody who runs like TO for bigger events is putting some like sample snapshots in the mission packet of like just like some of the variety of tables, so you can kind of see the density level, ladders, things like that. But like one thing I always tell players as well at an event, like, hey, if you think something looks off on your player, call it on your table, call a judge right away, because people, we had it at Nova where like these guys were playing a casual game on a table. Like we weren't using every table, so they were playing a casual game, and you don't know if people are like moving stuff around and things like that. So I always say, like, if something looks off, like just can have a judge confirm, like, yeah, that was intentional. Things move real easily.
it might be interesting for us to start tracking, not tracking in like a super spreadsheet sort of way, but just like, okay, if you play on a game and it feels kind of perfect or it feels like too much or too little, count the ratio of ladders to actual like pieces of terrain that you can stand on and see if we can get an idea for about how many ladders feel right.
That's interesting.
Because obviously you have less ladders if you have less terrain, and so you kind of there's got to be like maybe some comparison, like, okay, here's an actual non-gantry piece of terrain, like what's the ladder to terrain piece ratio that we like.
Sounds like a job for a spreadsheet.
I'm not going to do the spreadsheet. I'll provide information for it.
One of the and this was sorry, we're gonna keep going this road a little bit, but Thoris was in the in our chat talking about terrain, and I know for like MCP he prints like a diagram of the map of what it should look like, but obviously MCP is different, right? Terrain is designed to be moved and interacted with. We had thought about doing it, but like then you have to kind of have static placements for every table, which like I don't personally like. I build every table with a couple extra pieces so you can move stuff around, but I think that's something for a convention. Like take a top-down photo and even like circle on it, like these are where ladders are. So if something shifts around, you can see like this is meant to be where like these are where they're supposed to be.
Or I'm gonna say Omnis was right all along. Glue the ladder to the building. It's okay.
Blue tack it to the building.
No, glue the ladders. But I am in the camp of gantries need some ladders, so but I really appreciate Matt helping me out to accomplish that, because also have my iWargame mats coming. So next Saturday I'll have iWargame mats and hopefully new gantry ladders.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty pumped. But
my iWargame
probably...
mat showed up Thursday. I brought it with me, unrolled it there Friday. So we had it for at least one of the tables, and it was a hit. Like it was good just to have at least one with a marked mat.
Filthy cheaters.
Omnis.
We talked about it, and that was an interesting one, but I don't want to take too much more time. But there's so much terrain in SHatterpoint, I don't think the marked mats is much a problem.
So I'm drinking Space Dust as per usual, but this time in a can, as it is my go-to brand at this point for sure. And I didn't have time to run over and grab some microbrews before the show. My hot take is going to be Star Wars, but not SHatterpoint. I've been rewatching the Clone Wars, and there's so many banger episodes. I felt this way for a while, but I felt like Mandalorian kind of competed. But I'm going to say hands down, the Clone Wars show is the best part of Star Wars, and it's not even a conversation. Nothing else is close to it. There's so many insanely good episodes in Clone Wars. It's nuts. If you're a Star Wars fan, you should watch it. Like, there are an episode here or there that just kind of feels like a fun cartoon. But man, there are so many like grand slam, touchdown, perfect episodes. It's fantastic. That's my hot take.
I just want to say visual media, absolutely, but the books will always be the best.
That's fine. I'm not comparing it to the books. I haven't read enough of the books to say.
Anything by Timothy Zahn is amazing. Like Zahn is like the best Star Wars writer in my opinion.
As much as I like the books, I think they'll never reach the saturation of the visual medium, and so I think Clone Wars is always going to be the thing you point to. Is like
that tells
if it's
me
not the movies, it's peak Star Wars.
That tells me that you need a better creative mind.
Wow.
You don't kind of visualize it.
And I say that as someone who has multiple signed books by Timothy Zahn. Just saying.
That's fair. I mean, lucky you. I wish I did. I guess for me, Sour Monkey has the huge, as Omnis says. And I'm going to go near and dear to the heart with this hot take. I feel there was a lot of stress that led up to Nova amongst many of us about what am I going to take. That's fair. For those of us who actually went to Nova.
That went from many of us to half.
Moving the goalpost. Jeez.
Anyways, and I think at the end of the day, it's like follow your feelings, right? Like trust the force. Yeah. And it's very much like I kind of like look back and like, why was I stressing so much about the list? And then I go and make a literal last minute decision, and it ended up working out. And I think it's like trust your feelings when it comes to the game and like what you want to take to a competition, and like go with your gut instinct instead of waffling for weeks, if not longer than weeks, on going back and forth, so you can actually get quality reps with what you're trying to take instead of having like not as many games. If you're trying to take something, you're going to want those reps. So I think that's kind of like where I'm at with it. In hindsight, is just follow your gut. Yeah. All right. We're gonna go ahead and move into the quick what you've been up to. I don't think much has changed for myself because just got back from Nova and I've been sick all week, so I haven't done jack shit. Matt.
I thought I'm not gonna want to touch Shatterpoint for a week, and now I'm like, crap. I've just wanted to get games in all week. Work has been ridiculous. I'm just like, I just want to play every night. I'm like, someone want to play a game of Shatterpoint? Can I just do something? I don't want to get on leave my house. I want to sit here comfy, but I just want to play a game. So that's what I've been up to. Yeah.
Honest.
So for me, I haven't played a lot this week. I got one game in with Donovan, and I did a little shadow boxing against myself since the last episode. I'm realizing Leia Charming to the Last is so much fun to play. There is a strong possibility that she is a go-to primary for me. I'm love it. She was everything that I loved about playing Mama, but with even more movement tech, and I love that. And so she's something I'm probably going to dive into really heavily. I'm enjoying her. I also don't think she has like a set, like this is what you bring with her and only this. And I think that's also really interesting. I did play a game with her and Mando against Donovan, and I got my second disintegration, and it actually mattered this time. It was not a 1 health support unit. Crosshair had 6 health left, and my die roll was fail, crit, 4 expertise. Because my dice like to only roll expertise, but it was the perfect moment for it because Crosshair converted one of my crits to a hit. So I had 1 crit and 5 damage that went through, which was 7 damage, which was exactly what I needed to like take down Crosshair and win the struggle. It was a great time, and we've kind of been talking about thematic moments, and in my head, I literally saw like the way that Mando was behaving in like the first 2 seasons when he still had the rifle. I'm like, I imagine him literally like coming up, like blocking something out of the way and then like catching, Crosshair like between the armor with a perfect disintegration shot from the rifle and then like rolling onto the point. Like I could actually see the cinematic moment in my head of like Mando just doing all of the cool shit and like rolled because he was doing Clan of 2 and then he shoots Hunter as well. It was it was just cool that I could kind of see it. But I've also doing a little bit of painting. I had a second high ground tower for my super commando base table, and I actually like knocked it off a shelf maybe like 2 weeks or something after I primed it, and it broke apart, but not in a broken way. It was just the 4 walls that kind of were the base of that tower separated, but they separated at all the glue points. Literally nothing broke, but I just hadn't gotten around to gluing it back together. So I glued it back together and I was painting that today. And so it was nice to just get another one of those done and then doing a little touch ups, going back, getting kind of hyped to do some massage stuff. So I was doing like some more highlighting on my massage, kind of just maybe feeling a little separatist type. We'll have to see.
Ooh.
But I'm like there's just some things I'm like, I've gotten to be a better painter. She was one of the first Shatterpoint models that I did. But yeah, that's about it for me. I think that's accuser time.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I went to the Orlando GT this weekend, so we did 4 rounds. There were 11 people. I went 2 and 2. It was not my ideal showing, but learned a lot. Had a good time. Then got in a fun game with Ewoks and the Leia list that I ran into Matt a few weeks ago, and got to play that as well. So, I mean, overall, that was a good weekend. So now I'm gonna waffle on my list more because I'm not thinking Hunter Hondo is a particularly good fit for me, but I will never not love Kanan. So the Kanan had a couple really good cinematic moments for me, particularly one where it was like perfect Jedi moment, right? Anakin dives onto an objective, kills Kanan, and Kanan jumps to reposition and uses Shien to knock him back off the point and turn that aggression against him and prevent the point from flipping on top of the wound. So that was like my favorite cinematic moment from the weekend, where it was like perfect Jedi, turn the aggression against them.
Little world between worlds fight going on.
Exactly.
Yeah. By the way, they should have named it the Orlando Calrissian GT.
Wow.
Well,
What a
Wow.
missed opportunity.
This one.
wow.
Um,
Yeah. Nailed it.
I do want to dogpile on with something we're doing recently. One thing, and like I thought about it when I'm just talking about terrain. I got super hyped after seeing like 16 of my tables out simultaneously. I have already, surprisingly, I recataloged all my terrain, but I have already printed 2 new tables since then. They're outside. I primed them. I found this really cool one. Of the Legion tables had some really cool Geonosian terrain that I was able to modify and make work. I think I dropped a photo in the Discord of like the early unprimed one. And then I'm like, now I'm super pumped to get more tables done. So
I cannot fathom
Lord,
Where do
your
you
level
find the
of
time?
like tabling.
Dan, the printer just runs, baby. It sits over there while I work and just runs.
Yeah, I mean, SHatterpoint was set up next to the Legion tables all weekend, and my buddy runs all the Legion stuff, so most of the tables there were his. And I tell you what, like when a Legion table, like when you really put the time in, you can see it across the room. Like it's such good thematic terrain. Like when you're comparing it to like Warhammer and everything's a gothic, like futuristic castle, and then you can look across the room and see all this cool spaceships and stuff. You immediately know it's Star Wars.
I know we're going to do a terrain episode in the near future, but I just wanted to shout out. So every Saturday I'm going in and I set up the same table basically, just in a different way at Mox Boarding House in Bellevue. And every single time I have people come up who don't even know it's a Star Wars game. They just see my terrain and they're just like want to come over and talk about it. And it's insane how much the multi levels and like it just draws people in. And I mean, part of it is like having painted terrain and stuff, and it's like got colors, and it's not just like hills and stuff, you know, like a 40K table or something. But it's amazing to me that the thing that draws people over to talk about the game with me is been the terrain and not the fact that it's Star Wars, even though it's the largest scale, like as far as size of miniatures, not like the amount of miniatures, but it's the terrain that's pulling people over to the table. And I've just never had that happen before, not with War Machine, not with MCP. Like it's always models. Like, but I don't know, just props to AMG, like designing a game where literally just the terrain is so cool that it pulls people in. That's, I don't know.
It's been my experience as well, so there's definitely something to that.
Yeah.
The only other game I've been through like that is I used to play Wild West Exodus, the game that
yeah.
Foam did. That one's really cool, and I used to make a lot of terrain for that because it's like it's designed to be like a spaghetti western town. So that's really like fun. So that was a really fun one as well. But I agree, the terrain is fantastic in this game.
I knew the guy who did a lot of the painting for their initial releases and stuff. I never played it, but remember there's people around me that were hyped.
Yeah, it was fun. Fun while it lasted.
All right, let's go ahead and move into the main topic. I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Omnis here, and he's going to go ahead and lead us through this doozy of an episode that we got.
Okay, so listeners, main topic time. So there's obviously the episode that already happened where Diz and Matt talked with oh my god, all of a sudden Scott Houdini, right? Like, okay, all of a sudden I was like, wait a second, the name just like popped out of my brain for a moment. But you guys really covered a lot of game specific stuff, but we want to kind of get a little bit more abstract with this. And so we want to start with your like substitutions and last minute decisions. And I want to start with Matt, because it seemed like, Matt, you didn't really know what you brought, like your whole collection. How did you like lock in and be like, this is what I'm playing?
So when we last talked in the episode right before, I was really like, if I had to decide at that moment, it was going to be Vader 2 Iden, and then it was going to be Mando and Leia, Princess, or like Charming Leia. And my whole rationale there was I have a killy list and then I have a revenge list, but I think Mando, Charming Leia plays really good against the Kanan Leia like revenge list. So if I wind up getting stuck in that list chicken revenge mirror, I think I have the edge. So the night before, I was still waffling. I was still back and forth. I didn't know how I felt with playing Iden. And the night before, I play 2 quick test games against Emperor Kevin Caldwell. So the first one I'm playing with my the Mando Leia list, and it wasn't clicking. And it's the same problem I've seen with the list before. Is look, the game is not about killing SHatterpoints. That's not the main point, but you have to sometimes just be able to reliably get a wound. That list doesn't do it. My Mando, I've played 20 competitive games and probably another 20 other games with Mando. I've never wounded something with Mando. I'm just saying that. Like, I've never wounded something with Mando.
What was the Mando Leia supports and secondaries that you were testing?
It's originally, the one I landed on would have been Mando, Sabine, Rebel Commandos, and then Leia's box. Because I love Luke, Han, and Chewie. And the problem is the only people who can reliably kill in that whole list are Rebel Commandos and Han and Chewie. It's scary when your supports are your offensive output. So like I played a game with Kevin where he wound up beating me and I played into his Vader Lumi list. And I'm like, great, this is like revenge into a killy list. I should have an edge here. And every time I'm like, great, I basically like, I turn the tables if I get a wound here. Just couldn't do it. So it really got me leaning away. And the point that like a lot of people were making, and including some of my test games beforehand, and like, you know, Dizzard, we've had conversations. Matt Booker was really pushing towards it. I played a game with Matt Booker, and like Sarah Cool was there and like watching us and talked about, if you're worried about that, just play the list that beats Revenge. And I think the list that beats Revenge is Obi Hunter, because you're super sticky. They try to knock you off a point. You just get right back on. Like, I think it's a huge upside. So I wound up going with, okay, great. I'm going to bring that strictly if I see a revenge list, I'm going to take it. And then I think the Vader to Gideon is a better all-comers Empire list because you have a little bit more control with Gideon and Fifth Brother. So I went in, I kept one of the 4 primaries that I had planned on playing at the start of Friday by the time I ended Friday. So that's where I wound up.
Okay.
The 2 test games I jammed the night before and just talking with a lot of people there who were just good players and stuff the day before. So
makes sense. Accuser, do you have any questions for Matt on his last minute decision?
No, I think it makes sense. I'm not shocked that Mando wasn't killing. I don't think I've seen him do a lot of killing. His superpower is just like standing there and tanking it. Mm-hmm. He's an interesting one that I haven't had much success with either, but I might have to experiment with him a bit more. But as far as Han and Chewie, where are you finding like the most success with them as your supports? Is it with the Leia, or have you tried them elsewhere too?
I've yet to try them elsewhere because I think 5 points makes them awkward. They move and can do like their offensive expertise is really good. The defensive expertise is hot garbage, but that's why they have 10 health. I find I Shatterpoint them 50+% of the time.
Wow.
They're that good in my mind. So I think they're really slept on by a lot of people. And look, I was the first one. That was one of my first, like when we first saw the box was the week we recorded an episode. And I said like, hot take, they're not that good. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Literally the next week, I'm like, sorry guys, I played 2 games with them. They're good. Like they're good. Their biggest weakness is they kind of have to go in that box with like Luke and Leia. So I don't see them having a lot of room right now elsewhere.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, well, Dizzard, we're going to bounce over to you. I felt like I had convinced you to bring the Ahsoka Mando squad with you. And then at some point on the drive, Ahsoka goes out the window and you move
Literally.
to Luke, and then have to buy Luke at the con and assemble him for your list. Why don't you tell us like what your final lists were, and then like how the fuck did Luke end up in it?
All right. So first of all, Omnis's face feels like he probably has similar feelings to me, but you guys are freaking crazy saying that Mando doesn't kill stuff, because my Mando kills stuff like as he needs to throughout the game.
He doesn't kill full health stuff.
No, he plinks. Yeah,
you're definitely picking fights.
Yeah.
But I get where they're coming from, so I'm not like, oh my god, that's so crazy, because he's really not a murder model.
No, and I agree with that.
But he's
It's
still
opportunistic killing.
Yeah, it's very long range, and he can either like set up for kills down the road, or can easily finish off when you're like, oh, well, I've revenged you and I did have 3 points of damage. So now you're definitely in Mando murder range.
Yeah.
But I've gotten quite a few kills with Mando.
He's got some scratches on his helmet, you know.
But my Mando doesn't have scratches on his helmet. Well, except for that fucking Grievous.
He gets scratches on his helmet from being shot, not from killing stuff. You guys have that all backwards.
You guys are crazy. All right. Anyways, so the list ended up being Thrawn, our Lord and Savior, Maul, Mando, and Luke, because Luku is poo poo.
This is 4 favorite
Looks
primaries.
just like this.
Clearly.
Unpainted, just
No,
like this.
no, that you're wrong. You're wrong. This is where I'm gonna set the record straight by the end of this. So, anyways, Ahsoka did not literally fly out the window on the drive. Just to be clear, if anybody's worried about my Ahsoka, she is still in the box. But no. Anyways, basically listening to Zion's Finest with Kenny and Sam talking, and they were talking about this episode. They were talking about like Iden and Spectre and all this, and they're literally talking about Iden. And this, like, out of nowhere, like there's like 3 primaries that I see when I look at Iden, and what there's like I forgot the first 2 words. It doesn't matter. But he said Luke, and I like pause. Like I paused the audio of the episode. I look at Joey, like, pull Luke's card up real quick and read it to me. So Joey goes, and Joey's literally reading Luke's card to me as we're driving, and like he reads it, and I'm like, I think this is what I'm looking for. I think this is like exactly what I want for this specific matchup of like the Iden Vader. And the reason why I'm so afraid of Iden Vader is because Janeway was playing Iden Vader, and anytime me and Janeway are in an event together, we're gonna get paired. Like it does not matter. Like MCP, sure enough, I got paired into Janeway and MCP at Nova. Any TTS league, we always get paired. I have yet to like really go to a convention or an event that we played in, a competitive event that we did not get paired. So it's like I'm sitting there, I know I'm gonna run into Janeway. Sure enough, this time I did not get Janeway, which is kind of funny. But I'm like, I'm gonna run into this Iden Vader list, and I don't have an answer for like that much aggression. And I was like, so we started going through it, and like he does pretty much everything that I want. Plus, he actually has an actionable turn. Where my issue with Ahsoka was, whenever her turn came up, it was like, I guess I'm gonna do this, and maybe it'll work. I might be able to go over here and stand on this point. I might be able to go do this. I don't know. I got some options, I guess. But it's like Luke's gonna go here and he's gonna do this thing during his turn. He's just gonna do it. Like that's just what he does. And I was like, I like the way that feels a whole lot more. And then like basically start messaging the Discord and be like, okay, tell me. I have Joey message everybody like, okay, he's actually literally changing his list because you guys were like talking shit about like, all right, what's he change his list to now this time? And then I was like, Joey, tell them he's actually. I was like, Joey, say, okay, he actually changed his list this time. Like, and so we're doing the whole Luke conversation, and then I was like, okay, well, here's 3 things that need to happen. I messaged Devin, and I was like, did you bring any SHatterpoint stuff to sell? And he's like, no, I did not. And I was like, oh, like you, like I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna get this. So like, let's hope the vendors actually have it. We get there. First thing we do is run downstairs, go to the vendor hall. There's 1 Luke, like just 1 in the whole entire vendor hall. And I'm like, oh my god, like this is a sign. So I buy it, go and like, okay, we got to get a game with it. That night we played a game. I was like, okay, it's doing what I want it to do. If I basically run into Empire, I'm just gonna drop Luke Mando because now I have my tanky squad that can actually punch, and that's what I'm looking for. And sure enough, during the event, I ran into a Empire list, and I was like, "There's no reason why not to play Luke because even if he doesn't play Iron Vader, Luke still feels pretty good into all these other Empire primaries. So let's go." And I played it, and I won. So felt really good to be justified. And the random last minute throw in. So big shout out to Zion's Finest and Sam and Kenny for talking about it because they spewed basically this whole entire wild shenanigans of like going back and forth on if I'm gonna do this or not. And for what it's worth, he was not great plastic. I put him together, and then Devin primed him for me.
So you played him primed.
So he's primed, yeah. He has zenithal priming, so he's got some shadows going on. Like he's not he's not just plastic.
Are you going to paint him after playing him? Did he
Probably not.
earn
I'll
that?
probably never touch him again. Luku is poo poo. No, I'm probably gonna paint him. He's actually really fun. I had a lot of fun with that game with him actually. And as far as like Rebels go, I wouldn't be upset with like revisiting him with like actual serious list building in mind instead of just like a last minute for this specific niche scenario. But I also don't know because I look at him and I'm like, where else do you really want Luke besides into like a heavy aggression list? I don't know yet.
So one thing I was thinking about, because I have a showdown event in a couple of weeks, and so suddenly I'm like, what do I play in an event without List Chicken? And like Luke might actually be fine. Like he's not amazing into anything,
Yeah.
but it also doesn't seem like Luke is awful into anything.
No, he's no. So like, because I remember when Luke was first spoiled, you, me, and I think Sam was still like on the show at the time. We're looking at it. I don't remember if he was or not, but anyways, we were looking at it and we're like, that's where Luke who is poo poo comes from, is because we were like, Vader's awesome. Vader's gonna be the best Empire primary. This is great. And then we're like, Luke who is poo poo. There is nothing here.
That,
He's not
did
doing
not come
anything.
from.
No, that
That
came
did
from
not
me.
come from that because
No,
I was more interested in Luke on their initial reveal.
What did
because I was just
I
like,
could have sworn it was whatever.
you were definitely pro Vader right out the gate.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm like, I don't understand why people are poo-pooing Luke so quickly. I was like, he's got a great tree, he's got good abilities, he's got a free jump. Like, there was a lot of things on that card. But now, without getting into like what modern Shatterpoint is like, there's some things that are missing on him as a primary that I think would push a character into the top tier. And without any like weird specials, and he's just kind of like a generic solid. But I don't know. I was thinking like at some point I might challenge you guys to be like, we should all pick a primary that we either haven't played in a while or haven't played at all, and just like try to get some games in with them and like see what we think of it. And it might be something that you should play Luke a little bit more. Like if he worked for you,
it's fun. Yeah.
Red lightsaber Luke could be a thing. But
well, so like the other thing,
make him Dark Empire.
The other thing with like the whole Luke is like when we put it together and we're like looking at like the premiere list as a whole. Like we were sitting there talking, and it was like this list kind of just owns List Chicken. Like, what the fuck is actually happening with this list? And like throughout the entire event, every time I play somebody, I pull out my two cards that were my primaries, and I have them in my hand. I'm like, these are my two primaries I'm playing, just so I wasn't gonna try and like no shenanigans called on me, right? And I was like, what do you think they are? And every single time the person was wrong, except for my last opponent, he actually guessed right. But it was the person like, I have no idea what you were running. Like Luke and Maul just throw this whole entire thing.
I
want to
do that.
Any sense.
I want to see if people are guessing. I think it's harder with Empire, right? Like, because you really probably could have played anything. But Accuser, do you have sub questions for the Dizman?
And the rest of your list with Luke, I mean, it was OB2 and the Lando R2, right?
Yeah, which I still have that Lando R2. Yeah. I didn't want to touch him
with or without the drink cart.
Except the drink cart, yeah.
On brand.
He ain't serving me drinks. He's useless.
So out of your mishmash list of all these different things that no one can guess what you're running, what's your favorite pairing with it?
Mando Throne. Like that was like my most comfort list. It was the list that I was like, it doesn't matter what I run into besides like Iron Vader. It's my most practiced list. I feel like it's a very generalist list where it's like, regardless of what you're running besides Iron Vader, I feel really good into because I have displacement, I have mobility, I have a semi-decent kill, I got semi-decent tankiness. It's just pretty much got a little bit of everything. It's very much a jack of all trades list because it's Thrawn, Sergeant, DT, Mando, DTE, and no, Mando had DT, DTE. What was Thrawn's secondary? Oh, he had ISF. So it's like if I get like stuck on Never Tell Me, which I was bringing, then I still get that advantage of being able to deploy with all the points. So it's like it pretty much is like it's a really generalist list. So if somebody's looking for a generalist list to play, it's really fun and it works really well because it does have a little bit of everything, and it does take some practice because ISF die, but that also sets off Mando doing stuff. But it's just a fun list to do.
Dizzard, I do want to give you credit for sticking with your guns, even though we all talked about it. And I think we all kind of mutually agree that probably the best Thrawn list at the moment is Thrawn Iden. Obviously, that won the event, even after we said that. Matt's shaking his head at me. But obviously, that was how I felt prior to the event. And so I was like, if you want to play Thrawn, I feel like the best version of Thrawn goes with Iden. And we could go into all of the reasons why, but that was how I was feeling. And even though you kind of agreed, you stuck with your guns and played what you wanted to play. And then afterwards, even though you don't come away with a win, and then a Thrawn player gets the win with the exact list that we were talking about, why there's reason to play it, you never really complained. You're like, I'm glad I played what I played. And I just have a lot of respect for that. You did both of the things in combination. You played what you wanted to play, but you also were like very happy with your results playing what you wanted to play. So respect, even though you're an Empire player, which I know most people are like, oh, stuck to his guns and played Empire bullshit with Mando. Lols. I liked that you stuck to your guns. You had some weird shit in there too. So credit where credit's due.
I like Empire. Like, what can I say? Like, I'm literally working on a Thrawn tattoo right now. Like, not even joking. Like, I'm getting
that surprises no one.
A Thrawn tattoo right here. It'll be the one with him with the Chimera behind him and all that. It's gonna be sick. Anyways,
you just ink your skin blue and just fully commit.
I don't think I can do that.
I'll invest in part of that. Let me pay it. I'll pay for an arm.
Wow.
Accuser, do you want to handle the next question?
I'll defer to you on this one. I'm just enjoying listening because for me, it sounds like you guys had a much better, more successful GT, and I need to absorb it because comparatively, I'm looking like the weak link in the gang of four. So
I went 2-2 at my GT. Why?
Oh, then we're on par. We're on par. This is fine. Yeah. Okay. I feel less bad.
I totally scrubbed.
I'm over here like, oh man, like we're gonna have to put out an announcement that he's got to be reevaluated because he's not pulling his weight.
Dude, not only like your list was also better than mine, so I think
clearly not.
But I think looking at your list, I objectively can be like, I feel like he at least brought a good list. I failed at the list building step for my GT, so.
Please.
Anyway, well, let's just talk like general Nova impressions because you guys didn't really get to cover that in the Scott episode. So Matt, like, how was Nova? Because is this the first Shatterpoint Nova, and like, how did it go? Like, tell me more. Tell me more.
This is the first. So it's not the first one. So like Nova last year had Shatterpoint, but it did 8-man pods each of the 3 days. So it was very, the game had just barely come out. So, it was not even 3 months old at the time. So it was just kind of something run kind of quick. So this is the first real event for it. We last minute out of the casual event Friday. We only got, I think, 12 people for that. 16, maybe 12. It was fun. Like good group of people. A lot of people I already kind of knew locally from like the Northeast quadrant area. So the main event, it was a little, so we had 32 people sign up, 32 will pay. We obviously had 27 at start. We had a few mystery people who they paid and registered, and like Nova said we sold the ticket, but we didn't have a name for it. And then we had some no-shows. You're going to expect some, but like 5 is a lot. Like it was a little bit of a bummer to not have the full 32. overall the convention's great. This is my first time being at it in the new hotel. This is my 7th Nova, I think. I want to say 6th or 7th, but first time in the new hotel. Minus a little bit of parking drama that happened on the first day and me panicking because I didn't realize the parking lots that were the parking garages you could actually park in overnight. So that was fun. But yeah, I mean, overall, it's a great convention. One thing I encouraged all of the SHatterpoint players to do and people who were like newer to coming to big conventions, I'm like, hey, go down and like look at the 40K room. 40K is in this massive banquet hall, basically. And it's like all the lights are like purple, and you walk into this giant oval room and there's stairs down into the play area. It's just like, hey, like SHatterpoint's cool, it's great, we had a good turnout, go look at what 40K gets. And it's kind of like, wow. It's cool to see that many people show up for a miniatures game. Hopefully SHatterpoint is gonna get there at some point. But no, overall it was great. It was certainly great to see, I finally got to put an act like meet Dizzard in person, not just the virtual version of him.
It was kind of a letdown, wasn't it?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But like there was a lot of people from the Discord that I got to put names to faces. Like from our normal community, like Joey Edge was there. Obviously, like Simon and Anthony, who are both in our Discord, the guys who ran and judged the main GT, who, by the way, like did a great job. When I first got connected with them, I know one of the things, the reason it was originally only a 16-person event is they're like, yeah, like that's our kind of like, we've done that before. We've done 16 people locally. We've never gone bigger. And I kind of was like, well, I'll bring terrain. Let's go for a GT. And they were great. I mean, they were seasoned pros. Every judge call, they were there. I think they had some tough judge calls for sure. I think they did a good job with them. So, event was run flawlessly. Overall, it was just great. Any big convention, almost all of them. But like I said, like getting to put names to like faces to some of these Discord names, and then seeing people who I already knew. Kevin Caldwell came in. Emperor Kevin came in from Chicago. Brady Jessen flew in from California. So it was just great. I can't say enough about how fun some of these cons are, and you should get to them if you can.
I'm kind of jealous you got to meet Kevin. I had not interacted with him a whole ton, and so we started talking about the Annie Hunter list, and I was just immediately like, how do you ooze charisma through text? Right? Like, I feel like I can come off reasonably charismatic in person. I don't think I do it like on Discord. And I was just like, how do I like this guy so much from just like this short interaction? I'm like, this is a dude I want to meet and have a beer with, like for sure.
It's even more in person because I was the same way. I was like, Kevin is just amazing to talk to on Discord, and then met him and I was like, you need to like stay in this little circle here and hang out with us all the time because just your vibe is just infectious. It's very like he just brightens a room. Yeah, it's
a very Sith Emperor vibe, and I appreciate that, and it makes me feel at home. Is what I'm saying. But Dizzard, what was your impressions of Nova? Because you didn't play Shatterpoint at Nova last year.
No, I gave my Shatterpoint ticket to Ulysses last year, and he ended up winning last year.
So you kind of like indirectly won.
Yeah, that's how it works.
You were winning.
My ticket won. Anyways, so I didn't play last year because I had made cuts for MCP, and I was like, this is more important to me right now. So that's what I ended up doing last year. And to be completely honest, Shatterpoint at Nova this year might be one of the best tournament experience, like bigger tournament experiences that I've had. Sure, some people might say 32 people is not a big tournament experience, but like it to me it is.
That's perfectly reasonable. Like, it's not big. But
I
that's
agree. Yeah,
fun. Like,
yeah. I just want to. I can't say it enough. I think I've said it on the Scott episode, this episode, and Discord a million times. Just huge shout out to Simon.
Can we just call it the Scott episode?
Scottisode.
Okay.
But like, I can't say it enough though. Like Anthony and Simon did an amazing job, especially for running like a con event. And to me, as a player, it was flawless. Like, and that's what you want the players to feel. You want them to